All right, so we are going to go over some deadlifts set up so that we can make sure that we're not hurting or stressing the low back through deadlifts. So the biggest thing to think about with a deadlift is the whole point is a hinge. So a squat is different than a hinge. So this is your squat, you're getting down, the hips low, the knees are bending a lot, you're driving your hips back. Okay, a hinge is from your hip creases, right? So if you were to march, that's where we're bending from, not from the waist. So find that position, grab tight through the core, and then open the chest. Dig your fingers there into that hip crease. And then I also want you to put your thumb up towards your rib cage. So as you hinge forward, you want to stick your hips back and you want to make sure that your rib cage does not fall toward your hips, right? So then you get that round in the back. Depending on how tight your hamstrings are, you're not going to be able to go forward very far at first, and that's okay. So toes are straight ahead, right underneath your knees. If you still struggle with low back pain, you can always widen your stance. Sometimes that helps. And then over time, if you just realize that a deadlift doesn't work for your body mechanics, don't worry about it. You can do something different. So grab tight through the core. So pretend like somebody's going to punch you in the gut. You're flexed in tight. So you got to brace, contract, hold flexion through the rib cage. Okay, then shoulders back and down. Your shoulder blades squeeze together. So you're going to screw your heels into the ground. Pretend like you're trying to root your heels in. Okay, so your heels are driving in tight. Your toes are almost flaring because you're really rooting into the heels. You should feel the core light up. Okay, then from here, you're going to drive your hips back. Your knees stay soft. And you only go so far as to where your low or your upper back doesn't start to round, right? So if you get to here and then your shoulders start rounding forward, you need to back off and not go quite so low. So possibly you might need to spend some time stretching your hamstrings before you get going under load for a deadlift. You can also really work on backing off your weight selection possibly with a deadlift. Deadlifts traditionally can be done extremely heavy. You want to make sure that you have the mechanics down first. Okay, so let's go through a few reps without weight and just see how it feels. So go ahead, set your thumb underneath the bottom of your rib cage, and then set your finger on the top of your hip bone. Okay, we're going to hinge forward, belly strong, knees are soft, and you're not going to allow the finger and thumb to get any closer together. So right now I feel quite a lot of stretch in my hamstrings, and I also feel my glutes pushing back, prepared to drive the body up. So at the top of your glutes, or at the top of your deadlift, you want your glutes to grab, you're flexing your butt, and the core is holding strength. So it's almost like bringing something into place, stacking and locking into place on top. A lot of times what can happen is that at the top of our deadlift, we end up hinging or pushing the pelvis too far forward, and that puts a lot of stress on the low back. So you would just hinge, knees are soft, so you got to let your knees bend just a little bit. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, drive through the heels to get your glutes to push you to the top. Okay, once you add in weight, you can hold your dumbbells on the side like this or in the front like this. Okay, same mechanics, same everything applies. Push the chest forward, tuck the tailbone under, so already feel your core engage. Pull your belly button back, knees are soft. You just hinge forward as far as you can until you feel that that's kind of the capacity that you're at. Then you drive through the heels, come back to the top. Inhale, drop forward. Exhale, use your glutes to drive to the top. Inhale, feel the belly button pull back, belly button pull back, belly button pull back. Come up to the top, stack, firm, and flexed. Pull the core strong. So a lot of flexion in the belly is where you need to focus to make sure to not put pressure on the low back. So things you want to watch for is rounding. Make sure we're not rounding as we hinge forward. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the low back. So your deadlift is all about building the glutes. If your back still is hurting, take the weights away, focus on getting that back flat, and try to use your own self-flexion, building awareness into the glutes to get that push to the top. If deadlifts still bother your back, just skip them for a long time and focus on glute development. And you do that by doing glute bridges. So grab through the core, set your feet under the knees, push your glutes up, flexing big, big, big grab through the top. So if you look, you have your same stopping point in the top of a glute bridge that you do in a deadlift, because your hips drop back, belly is strong, and then you thrust up, hip flexors open, glutes contract. So if a deadlift still gets the better of you and it puts too much pressure on the low back, then do a glute bridge. Instead, develop the glutes, do this for about 2 weeks, then go back, see if you can hit a deadlift without putting tension on your low back. All right, keep me posted. Let me know how it goes. Good luck.